Nearly 36 million Americans suffer from panic attacks, and for many, the coronavirus pandemic is one more trigger to worry about. But a new app developed at the University of Vermont could offer relief for some sufferers. It's called Panic Mechanic, and earlier I spoke with Ellen and Ryan McGinnis, the co-developers of the app.
So, Ellen and Ryan, thank you very much for joining us. I'm just curious, what inspired you to develop Panic Mechanic?
Well, I was suffering from panic attacks myself, and I was in graduate school for clinical psychology. And I, in one of my classes, learned about this technique, this concept of biofeedback for managing panic attacks. So I tried that on myself actually for a few weeks, and I haven't had a panic attack since then, which was 2012. So from there, I wanted to make this accessible for everyone who's not necessarily in graduate school for clinical psych. So I asked my husband, who's a biomechanical engineer, if we could figure out a way to put this on a smartphone to make it accessible for anyone.
And I don't think most people, if you're not familiar with panic attacks, what does it feel like? What are the symptoms? How do you know that you're even having one?
Great question. So it can be really debilitating and terrifying. So it's an onset of fear that lasts about 10 minutes. You start hyperventilating, and that causes this cascade of other symptoms like tingling in your fingers, nausea, dizziness, thoughts of, I might be having a heart attack, I might be dying, I have no control over what's happening to me. And we know from the research that it's really that hyperventilation that's pulling oxygen to the right places in your body so that you could flee or fight if there was a threat in front of you, like a bear. But at these really uncertain times of this global pandemic, the threats are really unknown and potential and more ambiguous. And so our bodies are interpreting that as something that we can run away from when that's not necessarily helpful at that moment.
You talk about this global pandemic that we're in and just such unusual times, people living at home in isolation for some people. How can events like this trigger anxiety, especially in people who might not even realize that they're having it?
So that can be really scary if you don't know what's going on with your own body. But when we look at our phones for some news and some threatening information comes up, like the number of deaths that are happening from this pandemic, our bodies are then interpreting that as, okay, there's something really to fear here, and let's run away or fight that fear. And so our bodies feel like they're going haywire because it's not really helpful to have that response in that moment. But our bodies are trying to help us by escaping that threat.
That's so interesting, Ellen, to hear you say our bodies are actually trying to help us. Even though you feel the sense of panic and fear, it's kind of telling you something. I'm just curious, is the app easy to use for someone who's not familiar?
Yeah, it is. It's really easy to use. It's as simple as following some on-screen instructions, and it has you hold your fingertip up against the camera of your phone to get a really accurate recording of your heart rate. Then ask you some simple questions about what your panic attack triggers were and some lifestyle factors that may have predicted your attack. So things like substance use and exercise and sleep, and just walks you through that process repeatedly during your panic attack and gives you something to turn to, when you need some help.
So how exactly does it work to ease your anxiety?
So this concept of biofeedback is all about measuring your physiological stress response, your body's response to stress, and then displaying that personalized data back to you. So you are really taking control and getting a sense of mastery over what your body's response to stress is like. And then we're able to show you in the app that, okay, you have about 2 minutes left to your panic. So really understanding your response to stress and then viewing that stress as kind of an outside observer instead of feeling like it's taking over your body. So you feel like you have a sense of control of what's happening to you.
Ellen, you said that you suffered from panic attacks. How do you feel that this app has helped you personally?
Personally, it just helped me understand what was happening to my body. And sometimes I thought during a panic attack, oh my goodness, I'm having a heart attack. I don't know what's happening to me. And it helped me realize what that looked like in my body. So I knew what to expect. And I was able to kind of take back that control and that sense of control.
I'm curious, Ryan, what's your hope for this app? Where do you see it going?
Yeah, so I think the release of this app is really fortuitous in that we're in a great position to help people and get them access to this this ability to manage their panic attack symptoms in their homes where they need it, where they're having those panic attacks. And so our hope is that we can deploy this technology broadly to everyone who suffers from panic attacks, and provide that help over the next couple months and years.
Where can people find the app?
Yeah, so the app is available on the Apple App Store. If you search Panic Mechanic app, it'll come right up. It's $19.99, a flat fee, and it's a lifelong tool that you'll have access to for managing your panic attack symptoms. For those on Android, we have a version coming out for Android at the end of May, so look for it soon.
Ellen and Ryan, a husband-wife duo, so grateful you guys could come on to explain this new app to help with anxiety.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.